This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct this evening from Black Facts Headquarters Central. That's right, we're down here in the studio, in our studio headquarters, bringing you another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9, so you know which time it must be right now. If I'm saying that it's night, you know the time is right. That's right. Time to continue on featuring Black scientists, inventors, healers, people who are definitely what we could call men and women of science. But for the last 2 weeks or so, primarily we have been focusing on women. So we have to admit that that's a fact. But we like to keep things evenly balanced. You know, you need the positive and the negative. You need the up and the down, the left and the right, the east and the west, the north and the south to make everything go. You can't have more of one than the other. Everything has to be done in balance. So we're going to try to start balancing some of this out this evening. But before we get started, you know we got a few things we got to do. Number one, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. Number two, give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And then go ahead and spread the word far and wide. Black Facts is right here, not trying to hide. We're just here to give you a very nice ride as we take you on a tour all through Black historical times into the present with some brand new rhymes. We promise we won't commit a whole lot of crimes unless you think of my rhyming is some criming. Meanwhile, our proverb for tonight is, let's see what we got. He is as small as an empiki. He is as small as an empiki. And an empiki is a seed. It'll be smaller even than these. Matter of fact, I've got some here for this board game here. A seed smaller than this one right here. So you can see that's pretty small there, okay? And then empiki is even smaller. It's maybe about that size or a little bit smaller, but it's not much bigger than that if it's bigger than that at all, okay? And that's a proverb from East Africa, from Uganda, and it's an Amweso proverb, an Amweso or Mweso proverb. So that's just another name for a Mancala game, but a very different one because those games actually have 4 rows of holes instead of just 2. So you can see a picture of one right here with the 4 rows of holes instead of 2. Much more complicated game. We don't see those here in the U.S. very often, but I was fortunate when the first time my family went to Africa, that my parents actually went ahead and invested in an Amweso board, and it has inspired me to higher heights. Ever since I got it, we got that board when I was 12 years old. So tonight we're going to be reading you. We're going to do a little reading, and we're going to be reading about some scientists and healers, Black scientists and healers. Now, we may not read about too many women tonight, but you'll see some women that could fit into that category. So just be on the lookout for them as we go through our nightly slideshow. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to read the introduction to this book here, Great Negroes, Past and Present. It's one of the books we've been using here to tell our stories. In a pinch, we can always find something here. Science and industry, and they studied man and nature. They studied man and nature, the natural wonders of the world. Black Americans have made significant contributions to science, despite the general absence of at least 2 basic conditions for scientific work. Number one, freedom from full-time pressures for personal survival. And number two, a stimulating cultural environment. Slavery, segregation, and cultural isolation have been the lot of most black folks here in the USA. Nevertheless, scattered throughout the early history of African Americans are individuals who made contributions of a scientific nature for the benefit of all. One of the first African American men of science was the slave Santomi of New York, who was trained in Holland and practiced medicine among the Dutch and the English in New York. Another was Onesimus, who developed an effective antidote for the dreaded smallpox disease. So when we're talking about vaccines, then we have Onesimus to thank for coming up with a way to avoid coming down with smallpox, because that was an early plague that ran rampant through the United States and other countries around the world. Now it's practically eradicated. Practically. And that happened, again, he came up with this antidote in 1721. Benjamin Banneker is well known as a surveyor who helped lay out the nation's capital. He also made the first clock constructed in this country. His work in astronomy attracted the attention of learned men on both sides of the Atlantic. Through the use of mathematics, he was able to plot the cycles of the 17-year locust and thus help farmers to anticipate them. James Durham is generally regarded as the first trained black physician. Durham secured a basic general education while growing up in Pennsylvania. He had the peculiar fortune to be owned by several individuals who were physicians. During the 1780s, he became one of the most prominent physicians in New Orleans, revolutionized the early sugar industry by developing techniques for the more efficient use of steam in the gradual reduction. He revolutionized the early sugar industry by developing techniques for the more efficient use of steam in the reduction of cane liquids to sugar granules. He was educated in France, though he was taught at the French École Centrale. He published papers on the steam engine and spent a decade with Champollion deciphering hieroglyphics. James McCune Smith was a graduate of the University of Glasgow in Scotland. He was a native of New York. He came from a family which on its maternal side had been free of slavery for generations. For generations. From the University of Glasgow, he received the AB degree in 1934, the AM degree in 1836, and the MD degree in 1837. Smith wrote scientific papers attacking the idea of racial inferiority. Some of his scientific papers bore such titles as Comparative Anatomy of Races and the Industry Influence. Some of his scientific papers bore such titles as Comparative Anatomy of Races and the Influence of Climate on Longevity, with special reference to insurance. Martin Delaney was trained at the Canaan Academy and the Oneida Institute, both of New York State. This training was followed by an MD degree from Harvard in 1852. Delaney was the author of a number of publications, the last one being Principia of Ethnology, the Origin of Races and Color with an Archaeological Compendium of Ethiopian and Egyptian Civilization. Now, during the Reconstruction period, Edward Boucher earned the PhD degree from Yale University in 1789 for working on measuring refractive indices. In the last quarter of the 19th century, however, the scientific interest of black folks seems to have been directed more toward applied science or invention than pure space or pure science. This was also true of American science generally. This was the era of Malcolm McCoy, Granville T. Woods, and Jan E. Metzlinger. In the same era, Lewis H. Latimer made important applications of the principles of electricity. He took the work of Thomas A. Edison and invented and patented the first incandescent electric light bulb with a carbon filament. As an employee of the Edison Company, he surprised everyone by coming up with this solution to a problem that they had been unable to solve for quite some time. Well, I'm going to tell you what. That is the end of our storytelling for tonight, because it's definitely time for me to take flight. Right after I tell all you little children to lay your little heads on your little pillows, on your little beds, and close those your eyes while you wait on that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, there'll be no need for you to begin to despise what has come over the horizon to help you rise and maybe even shine. Wouldn't that be fine? And as for you adults out there, you know what you need to do. You just need to go ahead and get up off of that thing and do it. Do it till you're satisfied. Make sure to go ahead and give us a donation. You can do that right below, or maybe it's right above. You'll see a link. If you're on Facebook, on YouTube, you look below in the description area. And if you can't find it there, you can always go to our website and you'll find a link there. The website is www.blakfacts.org. That's where you will find me day and night, night and day, training up some of the best, trying to make sure that we're ready and able to do whatever must be done just to maintain the status quo. All right, enough said. We're all done for tonight. You know what to do. Look for me tomorrow at noon. Doc Ock here at noon and 9, signing off. Whew. All right. Uh-oh. I think I hit the rock. No, I didn't.